You press a button, pull a 30-second espresso, and drop the little pod in the bin without a second thought. You think you threw away a spoonful of wet coffee. You didn't. You threw away a sealed metal shell, about 1 gram of aluminum wrapped around 5 grams of coffee, built to outlast the coffee inside it by centuries. The world throws away roughly 56 billion of them a year, about 1,800 every second. And the thing you were told made that okay, that the pod gets recycled, is the exact claim a government regulator fined the maker for. An espresso pod weighs almost nothing, and there is almost nothing inside it, about 5 grams of ground coffee, held in an aluminum shell that weighs a single gram. The shell is the real product. 1 gram of metal, made to be used once, for the 30 seconds it takes to fill a cup. Coffee is the part that does no harm. Buried in soil, the grounds break down in weeks. The aluminum never does. It did not come out of the ground as metal. It was cooked out of rock in a smelter, and melting enough for 1 pod, from raw ore, burns about as much electricity as a full phone charge. All of it for a wrapper that outlives the drink by centuries and gets thrown out before the coffee is cold. The American version swaps metal for plastic, but the idea is identical. A K-cup is a plastic cup, a foil lid, and a paper filter. 3 materials welded into one small object that no sorting line can pull back apart. Whatever the box says about recycling, the pod was built to be dropped, not returned. None of this was an accident. The pod was designed, and so was the waste. It began with a Swiss engineer, Eric Favre, who filed the first capsule patent in 1976, after watching a barista in Rome work a lever machine, pull after pull, to force out the crema. Nestle saw the business in it, not the coffee. The lock. Sell the machine cheap, then sell the customer a lifetime of pods that fit only that machine. Holding that lock meant keeping rivals out, so Nestle buried the capsule under some 1,700 patents. Reporters already had a name for the tactic. It was the printer and ink model, poured into coffee. Favre himself would later turn on what he built and design a capsule with no aluminum in it at all. By then it made no difference. America built its own. In 1992, 2 college friends, John Sylvan and Peter Dragone, made the Keurig, a brewer that stabs a sealed plastic cup and shoots hot water through it. The machine was cheap. The profit came 1 pod at a time, at roughly 10 times the price per cup of ordinary ground coffee. Sylvan knew exactly what he was making. He called the cup 4 layers of plastic that could never really be recycled, and built it that way anyway. In 1997, he sold his share for $50,000, just before pods became a billion-dollar habit. He has said he feels bad that he ever made it. He does not own one. The coffee is gone in a minute. The pod is only getting started. Most of them go into a recycling bin, which is where the story is supposed to end well. It rarely does. A pod is too small for the machinery that sorts recycling. The sorters at a normal plant cannot grab anything under about 8 centimeters, and a pod is barely half that. So it drops through the screens with the shattered glass and the grit and rides the belt to landfill. Even a pod that gets caught is the wrong kind of object. Metal, a foil lid, and a wad of soaked coffee grounds crushed into one piece. No smelter will buy the aluminum until the coffee has been dug back out of it, and no curbside system does that. When Keurig rebuilt its cups in recyclable plastic and printed it on the box, investigators went looking for somewhere that would take them. In all of the United States, they found one. So the recycling figures the brand's print need reading twice. Nespresso says about 1/3 of its pods get recycled, a number it has never let an outside auditor near. Independent estimates land closer to 1 in 20. The line the company prefers is that 90% of its customers can recycle a pod if they choose to. Being able to and doing it are different things, and the space between them is where almost every capsule ends up. 39,000 pods roll off the world's lines every minute, and close to 30,000 reach landfill just as fast. Weighed together, a single year of them comes to around 500,000 tons of trash, most of it metal and plastic that will not rot. No country has really bent that curve. In Brazil, one study could trace barely 1 capsule in 10 to an actual recycling plant. In a single year, Keurig made enough cups to wrap around the earth more than 10 times over, and almost none of them came back. But the landfill is only where the pod ends. Where it begins is dirtier still. Every gram of fresh aluminum leaves behind several grams of red mud, the caustic sludge that pours off when the ore is refined. Nespresso alone ships an estimated 14 billion capsules a year. That is about 14,000 tons of aluminium and tens of thousands of tons of poisoned sludge dragged along behind it to keep coffee warm for 1 cup. Then it stays. A pod buried today can still be sitting there, whole, 500 years from now, the coffee long gone, the shell outlasting everyone alive on the morning it was brewed. For all the engineering, the most permanent thing a coffee pod ever makes is its own trash. It is tempting to read all this as a problem still waiting for its fix, a recycling system that just has not caught up. That reading is wrong. The pod is hard to recycle because hard to recycle is cheaper, and the whole business was built to keep it exactly that hard. The math is simple. Bought by the pod, coffee runs about $150 a kilogram, several times the price of the very same beans loose in a bag, and one of the most expensive ways to drink coffee anywhere on Earth. That markup only survives while the customer is locked to one machine, so the makers have gone to real lengths to keep the lock shut. When Nespresso's patents lapsed and cheaper capsules appeared, competitors accused it of quietly reshaping its machines to reject them. When Keurig's ran out, it shipped a brewer that scanned every cup and spat back any brand it did not recognize. The same copy protection that lives inside a printer, now guarding a cup of coffee. And every time the recycling promise was put on trial, it lost. In 2022, Canada's competition watchdog ruled Keurig's recyclable label misleading, fined the company, and ordered the boxes reprinted. 2 years later, the American securities regulator went further and fined Keurig for telling its own investors the pods could be effectively recycled, while it held letters from 2 of the largest recyclers it had asked, both saying plainly that recycling them was not commercially viable. Hamburg did not wait for a court. In 2016, the German city simply banned the pods from every public building it ran. Even Europe's sweeping new packaging law left a door open, and coffee capsules were handed their own carve-out, with until 2028 just to turn compostable, in industrial composters most households will never see. The coffee took 30 seconds. The pod it came in will still be in the ground long after the machine, the kitchen, and the person who bought it are gone.